Social network, improved camera, improved battery life and a faster processor. Those are just some of the things that Apple feels are worth the $649 that you will have to cough up for the latest iPhone 5S that was rolled out last night. Now, the most talked about feature, however, is the Touch ID, which maps your fingerprint, and Apple says that will allow you to keep your data more secure. That, or as privacy advocates say, this is just making the job of forensic experts just a little bit easier. So that's what we discussed today. iPhone 5S, the fingerprint feature, creative or creepy. And if you think we're the only ones making a big fuss about the privacy features and security of your information, well, of course, that is something to laugh about in the United States. Let's listen in to Jimmy Kimmel.
Apple this morning unveiled not one, but two new iPhones, which this is about as close as America gets to having a royal baby. Apple unveiling new iPhone. They have a new high-end iPhone called the iPhone 5S. The S stands for shut up and give us your money. It has a better camera, a longer battery life, and a fingerprint scanner, because the NSA didn't have enough of our personal information. Now they will have our fingerprints too. And the coolest new feature, I think, is an app that allows you to forget that 6 months ago you spent $500 on a phone that is now obsolete.
All right, so Jimmy Kimmel, Jaijit, let's quickly introduce our panelists. Also, we've got with us Jaijit Bhattacharya. He's, among many things, an expert on IT policy and e-governance. Jitin Jain, who is the co-founder of the Hackers Conference and a cybersecurity panelist. Gopal Sankara Narayanan, who's an advocate at the Supreme Court. And from Bangalore, we're joined by Matthew Thomas, who's a governance and social justice activist. So Jaijit, Jimmy Kimmel there, of course, was doing a stand-up comedy. He was saying, what more can they want? They've already, NSA's already got most of your information. And, you know, the last thing that was probably left was our fingerprints, and that too the iPhone will now take. Right. Is that really that funny?
It's definitely not funny. You know, the point is you can't stop the march of technology, so you need to have these features in. And this is not the first time that a mobile phone has this feature. There was Motorola which had this kind of feature. There was a South Korean firm called Pantech which had this feature. What makes it more dangerous now is that it's integrated to a smartphone. The earlier phones were not smartphones. And if you look at other devices, the other personal devices such as laptops which had such a feature where you did have a fingerprint authentication system, but they were not taken up by the consumers. And the laptops discontinued having these kind of features in the laptops. So the question is, why is it that we are bringing this feature in? For sure, there are value to it. For example, if you want to make a payment and you want to use your mobile phone to make a payment, especially in an Indian situation where people are not very literate, putting your fingerprint in and allowing that payment to happen is good. You can use that phone to perhaps open your door by putting your fingerprint on the phone, and the phone communicates to your door and it opens up. That's a good part of it. But it's a scalpel paradox. A scalpel can be used to do good things, but it can also be used to do many things which are not so good, which is why that comic stand-up is not so comic in real life, because once your fingerprint is gone, that's a most essential part of your identity. You can then start linking yourself up with everything else, going back to even Aadhaar. So if you get your fingerprint from your phone and you get another piece of data which also has got your fingerprint, you suddenly have your bank account, you got your positions, you got every detail of yours over there, which can be sucked out and used centrally. And given the powerful amount of data analytics that we can do, the power of the computing that we have, we can find out unimaginable amount of information that even the person themselves will not remember.
You know, Jitin, I just want to bring you in. A lot of the talk on social media today, you know, a lot of the tweets have basically said that, okay, look, Apple is saying that they're not going to upload this feature onto their iCloud server. It's only going to be restricted to that piece of hardware, your iPhone. So what's wrong with that?
No, what Tim Cook said was that, you know, the fingerprints will not be uploaded and saved on a central server. So what he meant to say that there will be not a, you know, huge repository of fingerprints of millions of Apple users. But the reason why he made a statement was that there are a lot of allegations, you know, and the proven allegations that Apple was in fact supplying raw data of the personal data of users to the PRISM, under the PRISM program, to NSA. And why social media is debating this is because it's $1 million question. Will Apple now start providing fingerprints, your fingerprints, my fingerprints to NSA now for further spying? Now that's the issue why Tim Cook addressed that, okay, we will not have a central server where we'll store all these fingerprints. But you see, whether he stores a fingerprint on a central server or not does not solve the question. The question is, does Apple have the access to the fingerprint on your phone? Yes, they do have anyways. They can anytime access any data or any fingerprint on your phone on any API. So that makes it as good as, you know, having a fingerprint on a central server. So tomorrow, if some NSA is to get a court order that, okay, fine, I want the fingerprint of that particular guy, or, you know, these amount of citizens or the citizens of this entire country on NSA records through your fingerprint mechanism, the Apple will have to comply. There is no way that they cannot comply, because entire Apple programs or infrastructure is under the jurisdiction of United States government.
So you're saying in what they're saying, they're actually hiding what they could potentially do
this is
in terms
just
of
another
alleging.
NSA gimmick to collect fingerprints from across the world. I mean, why Apple has brought biometric scanner to the main center stage? Because, are they trying to say that passwords and those 5 mechanisms have failed? Or are they trying to say that, fingerprints will be more safer than all of them?
All right, I'm actually just going to throw that across to Matthew. Matthew, you know, one of the big worries with the launch of this fingerprinting device feature on the iPhone is that other smartphones are sure to follow, are sure to duplicate this, and soon we'll have a flurry of smartphones in the market, all of them which will be able to basically track your fingerprints. What is the danger with the collection of these fingerprints, this biometric data? What is the danger? As Jitin is pointing out, they are certainly going to have to hand it over to the government, should the government actually demand that.
Thank you. The other two panelists have brought out the dangers very succinctly. There's nothing much to add to that. But I would like to sort of talk about this whole idea of fingerprints as something unique and great. I think it's rather a silly idea. Let me read to you from an article which appeared in The Economist, and The Economist should know what they're talking about. It's a magazine of repute. And specifically this article was on fingerprints and biometrics. Let me read it. Thanks to gangster movies, cop shows and spy thrillers, people have come to think of fingerprints and other biometric means of identifying evildoers as being completely foolproof. In reality, they are not and never have been, and few engineers who design such screening tools have ever claimed them to be so. Yet the myth has persisted among the public at large and officialdom in particular. In the process, it has led, especially since the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, to a great deal of public money being squandered, and worse, to the fostering of a sense of security that is largely misplaced. See, this whole idea of fingerprints and being unique and it's useful, etc., is Tommy rot, if I may say so. Yes, they are useful to some extent. As for payments, etc., it's ridiculous to try and pay through using your fingerprints, because your fingerprints, you leave it all over the place. It's like leaving your password all over the place. And in fact, one of the biggest dangers I see is it will strike at the very root of the judicial system as individual fingerprints become available in various databases. I can take that fingerprint and put it onto a weapon. I can put it onto a bank locker and say that this person stole things from it. Fingerprints by themselves are probabilistic in nature and cannot really identify a person uniquely, as the case of the Madrid bomber brought out. The database of the FBI found that a person with the fingerprint was in California. It finally turned out to be false. That poor man had never left the United States. He didn't even have a passport. He couldn't have been to Madrid to do the train bombing. The other thing I want to say is,
Matthew,
there are
just want to
many
quickly
ways
ask you,
in which...
Matthew, I quickly want to ask you, you're of course pointing out the kind of dangers that can happen with access to biometrics and fingerprinting and stuff. Is it also possible to do profiling, having this, is it also possible to have profiling? Is it possible for the government to do profiling with fingerprints?
Certainly. Certainly, you see, because if your fingerprint is your password, and as in many other cases, this is going to be linked to, they say mission convergence. It's linked to ration cards, it's linked to LPG, it's linked to your bank accounts and so on. Your name, your caste, your date of birth, caste census. Certainly it can be used for profiling. But the fundamental question is not that. Why is Apple doing it? Of course, certain surmises have come up, but I think more than, of course, that is one of the byproducts. NSA can have data, but I think it's more a gimmick. They probably are losing out market share to Samsung, and they want to come out with something which I think they believe will be a game changer. I'm sorry, I don't think it will.
Well, frankly, Matthew, why Apple is doing it is really anybody's guess, whether it's a gimmick or whether it's the next, its next unique or Whether others will do it or not, that of course we'll have to wait and see. But I just want to bring in Gopal. Gopal, you know, I'm looking at a lot of you know, interactions that are coming in right now, and many of them have this one thread of thought: if we have nothing to hide, what is the problem in the government or anybody else having our having our information? In fact, somebody has written in saying, I don't get the issue. Fingerprint scanners aren't bad. I say put in a retinal scanner. No worries if you've got nothing to hide.
Now, this someone who's written into you, does he or she know that for several years now, we've raising the fingerprint issue now, but for several years we've had, you know, iCloud, and they're probably using Dropbox or Google Drive, all facilities in which your private SMSs and your emails and other material, private documents, etc., even copyrighted material are stored, right? Access to those servers, primarily because these corporations are registered in the US, they have large space there for their servers, etc., are in the US. Now, the information that they upload and save in India is available in the US under US corporates who can be arm twisted by using legal procedures in the US to divulge that information. Now, is the person tweeting and emailing you aware of that? Has that person been told when he or she bought an iPhone or any other smartphone thus far that any of your cloud techniques that you use or material that you save can be used by individuals who you did not intend to divulge this information to start with? I think that's one immediate issue, the fact that this has been out there for a long time, and governments abroad are in a position legally there to access the information which you imagine is sitting on your phone.
Yeah.
That's one.
Okay, Jaijit, you know, just break it down very simply. What are the privacy violations?
So, no, I think very good question, because people here do not understand privacy in the sense that how it really hurts them. Privacy is not just where are you driving, what movie are you watching. That's not really privacy. Well, it can be construed to be a privacy fanatic's view of what privacy is. But privacy is that if you have visited a doctor for certain problems and you don't want the world to know what their problem is, but because you checked in and because your fingerprint was captured and that gets transmitted and therefore everybody gets to know what your medical problem was, that's a privacy violation. Now, you might say that I didn't do anything illegal, so I'm not concerned about my privacy being violated. But do you want the world to know what are your medical problems? Do you want the world to know where are the stocks that you have betted? If I go and know, and if you are a big businessman who's put in and is going to buy a lot of stocks, I know where you're going to buy the stocks, that's also a privacy violation. So privacy violation has got multiple dimensions, and the dimensions which are going to hurt you either economically or socially or morally are all privacy violations. And that's a sensitization that has not happened in this country, also because we don't have very strong privacy legislations, and that's one of the things that Gopal is bringing in, that the laws are different, our interpretations are different, our concerns are different. For example, if Julian Assange is being targeted, is he a criminal under Indian law? He's not. But he has been denied all access to Visa payment systems, MasterCard payment systems, and so on and so forth. His privacy is getting violated because of the interpretation of whether he is a criminal or not, which is under different jurisdictions.
All right. In fact, you know, Jitin, I'm just going to come back to you in a bit. One of the things that's also being talked about is the fact that, you know, there is, you're going to opt out of it. You don't have to take this fingerprint feature at all. But I mean, the other counter argument to that is, why would you buy the new iPhone 5s in the first place if you were not going to take that fingerprint feature at all? So in a sense, it is kind of take it. Right? Buy it and pay us money for it.
It is. And I think I completely agree with the point made regarding the fact that Indians, by and large, I think, don't understand privacy at all. They don't understand, possibly because it's not in our law, and because we don't have a law on privacy, we don't understand. I think we are intrusive as a nation. We are very happy to just pop in our neighbors' houses without knocking, without asking. It's something we've grown up with. So we don't think much of personal space and personal information, etc. But I think we're gradually reaching a stage where our information is going into societies which are not attuned to this kind of lack of privacy, right? And it's being used in manners which we did not imagine. I think because of this internationalization and because of the fact that India is so under-regulated, we have Mr. Tata's petition still pending in the Supreme Court regarding privacy, and we're still debating whether he has a right at all, which was violated to start with. So because it's all fluid, and it's been fluid for now 60 years after the Constitution came in, and we still don't know where the privacy laws are. I think that's a major problem.
I think everybody's talking about this, fingerprints and iPhone. What we are forgetting is that they have introduced another feature called M7 coprocessor, which will now continuously monitor your motion movements, your accelerometer, your movements. Even when your phone is sleeping, they will continuously track those movements. So, and the access to that chip would be available to all third-party applications also. So tomorrow, if NSA is to track my every single movement or every single walk, they can easily do it. But I want to bring one fundamental question. Does the privacy right is only the right of selective few in India? Is only Ratan Tata or leader of opposition Arun Jaitley, his phone call should not be monitored, or only Sonia Gandhi for her medical records? Do they have the right to privacy? Are we running becoming a country of the right of selective few? When the rights of millions of citizens is being violated, data is being spied by NSA. Our government does not even question America. This is the whole thing. So tomorrow, if this all debate comes true, that NSA takes away, if NSA takes away all the fingerprints, what will you do? Will the government wake up?
To defend America for the information that America was looking at of ours. Matthew, just quickly, you have 10 seconds to make your last point.
Yeah, 10 seconds. You asked a very relevant question. I mean, privacy is very important. Privacy is equivalent to right to life. I agree to that. But something more important than privacy, you couple it with profiling. The problem with these databases and collection of data is, you are not what you are. You are not Kashish as you know yourself, or Gopal as he knows himself. You are what the database says you are. And let me tell you a little fact. Ian Angel is a professor in the London School of Economics. He once went to his bank and to do some transaction. He talked to his bank manager. The bank manager gave them the account number.
Matthew, I'm going to have to leave. Matthew, I'm going to have to leave it here. I'm so very sorry, but that strong, powerful note coming from Matthew. You are what your data says you are.
But you are what the database says what you are.
Sorry, say that again, Matthew.
You are what your database says.
You are what the database says what you are.
Absolutely,
and
that's exactly
what
you
are.
Right. All right. So, well, do the smartphones, in fact, deserve to be able to collect so much database? I hope Aneen and some of the people who've written in asking us these questions about why this should worry us, I hope some of these panelists have been able to answer your questions. Unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here on the social network, but come back again tomorrow, same time at 6:30. Goodbye for now.